The WNBA tried to capitalize on her popularity and crammed a lot of games in over a short amount of time, playing against the best teams in the WNBA.
The season around Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever has evolved into something bigger than a typical rookie storyline, becoming a full-scale shift in how the league is watched, discussed, and evaluated. Every game she plays now carries weight beyond the box score because she has quickly become the focal point of attention, not just for her scoring and passing, but for how she changes the rhythm of the entire game. Defenses adjust specifically for her, spacing collapses differently, and even small mistakes or reads can turn into immediate scoring opportunities, which is why her assist numbers and offensive influence continue to stand out as her role expands within the team structure. At the same time, the Fever are developing as a unit, learning how to balance a roster that includes multiple young and emerging pieces who are still adjusting to the demands of playing together at a high level. Aaliyah Boston's growth inside the paint has been a stabilizing force, giving Indiana interior scoring, rebounding, and defensive presence that complements Clark's perimeter creation. Her ability to finish plays, control the glass, and anchor the paint allows the team to maintain balance when outside shooting is inconsistent. Alongside her, Kelsey Mitchell's scoring provides another layer of offensive pressure, especially when defenses overcommit to Clark, creating opportunities for quick scoring bursts that keep Indiana competitive in tight stretches. This interconnected style is what the Fever are trying to refine, where each player's strength feeds into another's role rather than existing in isolation. Defensively, the team is still developing consistency, as young rosters often take time to build communication, rotations, and discipline required to compete against experienced teams, and that process is visible in both strong stretches and occasional breakdowns. Off the court, however, the impact has been undeniable, as attendance, merchandise sales, and broadcast ratings continue to rise whenever Indiana plays, reflecting a major shift in audience behavior where interest is increasingly driven by individual stars rather than just teams. This surge has also placed the league in a new position, where marketing, scheduling, and visibility are being reshaped around players who generate the highest engagement. The conversation around salaries, contracts, and value has also grown alongside this attention, highlighting broader discussions about how the league compensates players in relation to its growing popularity. While comparisons across players and teams continue to dominate debates, what stands out most is how quickly Caitlin Clark has influenced both on-court dynamics and off-court economics. Her presence has not only elevated Indiana's profile, but also forced the league to confront how rapidly its audience has expanded and how much of that growth is tied to a single generational talent. As the season continues, the focus shifts from early excitement to long-term impact, where consistency, adaptation, and team development will determine how far the Fever can go. Ultimately, what is unfolding is not just a rookie season, but a broader transformation in women's basketball, where performance, visibility, and commercial influence are merging in real time, and Caitlin Clark sits at the center of that change, shaping both her team's future and the direction of the league itself. The Fever's rise this season is not just about one player, it is about how the entire structure of the team is slowly aligning around a new identity that is being built in real time with every game they play, because when a franchise adds a generational talent like Caitlin Clark, everything around her starts to shift, including how defenses prepare, how coaches adjust, and how teammates adapt to the increased pace and attention, and that adjustment period is where most of the learning happens as the team tries to convert raw potential into consistent winning habits. What makes this situation even more interesting is how quickly Indiana has become one of the most watched teams in the league, because attendance numbers are rising, television ratings are climbing, and every nationally televised game feels like an event rather than a regular season matchup. And that level of visibility creates both opportunity and pressure, because now every possession is analyzed, every decision is questioned, and every performance is compared to expectations that are constantly increasing. At the center of it all, Caitlin Clark continues to operate as both a scorer and a facilitator, because her impact is not limited to shooting or passing, but extends into how defenses are forced to rotate earlier and more aggressively, which opens up space for teammates like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell to operate more freely. And that spacing effect is one of the main reasons Indiana's offense has become significantly more dangerous as the season progresses. Aaliyah Boston's presence inside the paint gives the Fever a reliable anchor who can finish through contact-secure rebounds and provide defensive stability, which is essential for balancing a perimeter-heavy offense, and her chemistry with Clark continues to improve as timing and reads become more synchronized with each game they play together, while Kelsey Mitchell adds another layer of scoring threat that prevents defenses from collapsing entirely onto Clark, which helps maintain offensive balance across multiple possessions. Defensively, the team is still developing consistency because young rosters often take time to build communication and discipline, especially when facing experienced opponents who can exploit small breakdowns in coverage. But there are visible improvements in effort rotations and physical engagement, which suggests that the foundation is slowly being built even if it is not fully stable yet. Off the court, the impact of the Fever's rise is just as significant because merchandise demand, ticket sales, and broadcast ratings all reflect a major shift in audience engagement where fans are increasingly tuning in specifically to watch Indiana games. And that change in viewership behavior has broader implications for the league because it shows how quickly a single player can influence overall interest and commercial growth across the sport. As the season continues, the narrative will keep evolving because every game adds new context to how this team is being evaluated and whether their progress translates into long-term success. But what is already clear is that Indiana is no longer just another team in the league. They have become the center of attention, and Caitlin Clark sits at the core of that transformation, shaping not only how the Fever play, but also how the entire league is being watched and discussed. The conversation around the Indiana Fever continues to grow as the season progresses because every performance adds another layer to how this team is being evaluated, not just as a developing roster, but as a central storyline in the entire league. And that kind of attention changes everything from how opponents prepare to how media narratives are built around each game, and each player's contribution becomes part of a larger discussion about where the franchise is headed long-term. Caitlin Clark's role in this transformation is not limited to scoring or assists, because her presence alone forces structural changes in how defenses operate, which creates ripple effects across the entire floor, and that influence allows teammates to find better looks and more open opportunities, which is why Indiana's offensive flow continues to improve as chemistry develops and players become more comfortable in their roles within the system. Aaliyah Boston remains a critical part of that structure because her ability to control the paint finish plays and provide defensive stability gives the Fever a balance that most young teams struggle to achieve, and her connection with Clark continues to evolve into a more efficient partnership where timing, spacing, and decision-making improve with each game they share on the court, while Kelsey Mitchell adds another dimension of scoring that prevents defenses from fully committing to stopping one single threat, which keeps Indiana competitive in high-pressure moments. Defensively, the Fever are still a work in progress as communication and rotations continue to develop, but the effort level and intensity have shown clear improvement, which is an important sign for a team that is building toward long-term consistency rather than short-term flashes. And as players gain more experience together, those small improvements begin to translate into more stable defensive possessions over time. Off the court, the impact of Indiana's rise is becoming impossible to ignore because attendance is increasing, viewership numbers are climbing, and merchandise sales reflect a level of engagement that extends far beyond traditional fan bases, and this shift highlights how quickly the league's visibility can expand when a team captures national attention in a sustained way through both performance and narrative. At the same time, the pressure that comes with this level of exposure is significant because every game is now analyzed in detail, every statistic is compared across players, and every outcome feeds into broader discussions about value, performance, and legacy, and that environment creates constant evaluation where nothing is overlooked and every moment carries weight beyond the final score. As the season moves forward, the Indiana Fever will continue to be one of the most closely watched teams in the league because their growth represents more than just wins and losses. It represents a larger shift in how women's basketball is consumed and discussed. And at the center of that shift is Caitlin Clark, whose impact is shaping not only her team's identity, but also the direction of the league as a whole. The Indiana Fever's season continues to develop into one of the most closely watched storylines in the league because every game now carries meaning beyond the standings and reflects how quickly the team is evolving around its young core, and that evolution is being shaped by the presence of Caitlin Clark, whose impact on both ends of the floor changes how opponents defend and how teammates operate within the system, and it is this constant adjustment that is slowly defining Indiana's identity as a team built around pace, spacing, and decision-making under pressure. Clark's influence is most visible in how defenses react to her because she draws attention the moment she crosses half court, which creates spacing advantages that open up opportunities for her teammates, and this has allowed players like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell to find more consistent offensive rhythm as the season progresses and chemistry improves with each possession they share on the floor, and that growing connection is turning Indiana's offense into a more balanced and structured unit rather than relying on individual bursts alone. Aaliyah Boston plays a crucial role in this development because her presence in the paint provides stability both offensively and defensively as she finishes around the rim, controls rebounds, and anchors interior defense, which gives the Fever a reliable foundation to build around while Clark handles perimeter creation and Mitchell adds scoring pressure from multiple areas on the court, and together this combination is slowly forming a system where each player complements the others instead of competing for space or touches. Defensively, the team is still developing consistency as young rosters often require time to build communication, timing, and discipline, but there are clear signs of progress in rotations, effort, and physical engagement, which suggests that while mistakes still happen, the overall structure is improving, and that improvement becomes more noticeable as players gain experience playing together in high-intensity situations against more established teams. Off the court, the Fever's rise has had an equally significant impact because attendance numbers are increasing, television ratings continue to grow, and merchandise demand reflects a surge in fan engagement that extends beyond traditional audiences, and this level of attention highlights how quickly a single team can shift the league's visibility when performances align with public interest and narrative momentum, and Indiana has become the center of that shift in a very short time. As the season continues, the pressure and expectations will only increase because every performance will be analyzed and compared, and every result will contribute to the larger conversation about the team's future potential. But what is already clear is that the Fever are no longer just a rebuilding team, they are a focal point of the league's present and future, and at the center of that transformation is Caitlin Clark, whose influence continues to shape not only Indiana's trajectory, but also the broader direction of women's basketball.